Hello everyone. Welcome to today's webinar on purchase order approvals workflow. This is Scott Jorgens, Director of Marketing at Endeavour Solutions, and on the line I have Brittany Pripnitsky with us, and she'll be taking us through our demo later on. For those that are new to Endeavour, we'll be doing a quick introduction and then right over to Brittany to talk through vendor creation, requisitions, email approvals, generating and receiving transactions, and how a workflow can be used in most of situations. So about Endeavour, been around for 28 years now. 3 core lines of business: advisory services, implementation and upgrades, and ongoing optimization and support for our clients. We're now over 450 clients across Canada and parts of the US, operating out of our key offices in Toronto and Halifax, as well as London, Montreal, Edmonton, and Ottawa. Thank you for all those clients who have attended today, and for those that are watching recording, look forward to meeting with you. You can visit our team online at www.endeavorsolutions.ca. You can see our profiles on LinkedIn and a wealth of information on our website. Did want to take a point just to remind everyone about the very strong Microsoft Dynamics GP roadmap. Next version being GP Next, I assume will be GP 2018 R2 or 2019. It's due to come out later this fall, most likely December timeframe. And Microsoft's been very true to hitting every single one of its milestones on its release and roadmaps for the last 5-10 years. Later versions coming out 2019 plus. GP is here to stay and has a long and fruitful looking future. So with that in mind, Brittany, I'll let you introduce yourself and take it over to you. When you want me to switch you to presenter mode, please let me know.
Hi, my name's Brittany. I'm the support manager here at Endeavour. So I'm going to be helping you guys through a little bit of what we call purchase order workflow. This situation helps us out with kind of automating some of those processes we might be doing by paper for approvals for various things like vendor creations and actually ordering our POs and receiving them. So as I said, my name is Brittany, and I'm the support desk lead here at Endeavour. So you might actually get to talk to me sometimes when you call support or email into support. We always love having you in support as well. So when you're ready, Scott, if you can flip over to me, that would be great.
Sure. I've sent it over to you. Now you have to accept it.
Perfect. So you should be able to see my screen now.
I can see your screen clearly.
Beautiful. So as you can tell, I have GP open just in the purchasing window, nothing too exciting there. So what we're going to talk about today is we're going to do a basic workflow that is going to go through the basic part being if it's under $5,000 and I submitted a PO, it doesn't require any approval. If it's between $5,000 and $15,000, however, it does require my manager's approval. If it's $15,000 to $25,000, it's going to require my VP's approval. And if it's over $35,000, it's going to our president to say, hey, I want to order this. Now, we may actually be doing this by paper inside of an office where we were going in and we're printing out a PO and we're signing it, and then we make sure it goes to the normal flow that it should be. GP is here to just help automate that for those who may not always be in the office, or maybe just to have a little reminder that says, hey, I want to buy this and I need your approval. But of course, before we can buy anything, we actually have to have a vendor inside the system. So I also wanted to show you can actually do a vendor approval as well. So what happens is, you also notice I have GP open and I also have my email open as well. So I will show both sides of GP and what the email that comes looks like. So I'm just going to hop into our vendor card here. And if I create a new vendor for myself here, I'm going to pay myself hopefully a large sum of money here for some fun. So I'm going to set up my vendor like normal. And everything goes through as normal. We would set up everything we need to normally do. And when we hit save, this is actually going to go into a submission to say, please submit and have an approval. So I have it being approved by my manager, and that goes through. So I'm going to show you what those emails look like now. I have a pre-vendor already created. So we're going to go through what that PO can look like. So I'm going to go in and enter PO. Sure, we've all seen this purchase order screen before. And my buyer ID is going to be financial. I actually have this workflow going to different managers based on my buyer ID. In this case, I'm going to be Finn because I'm actually coming from the finance department. However, we can make this, I have this currently going to different managers based on the buyer because some managers will need to change depending on who's buying this. And in this case, I've also made myself a manager because I like to pull double duties. I'm just going to pull up my ACE travel here, and I'm going to pull up my item. And of course, a unit of measure because GPA always requires that. I'm going to buy one, and it's $16,500. So if you remember the rules that I said before, if it's over $15,000 and it's below $25,000, then it requires a manager's approval. I happen to be that manager, so we're going to see both sides. So I put in my PO, it's for $16,500. I can't print at this point, and I can't email this PO because you'll see that it's not submitted. I'm going to go ahead and hit submit. I can put a comment here to my approver that's something along the lines of, please approve now, desperately need. I'm going to go ahead and submit that, and you'll actually see an email that's going to come in. What happens from the email portion is a task gets assigned to us inside of the email, and from my email itself, when I'm inside that email, you'll notice that I have a new email that came in from GP that says, you have put in a purchase order to the ACE Travel Company for $16,500. What do you want to do with it? I have three options as the manager since I'm playing double duty here, and I have my manager hat on now. I can either approve this, which means once it gets approved, it goes back to the user, who happened to be me, submit that PO, and then they can then print and give that to their vendor, or they can go ahead and email it to that vendor at that point in time. I can reject it and say, no way are we getting this. I don't agree with this at all. Or I can actually delegate this as well. I can say, you know what, I'm actually not the correct manager that should be approving this. It actually needs to go to somebody else. We want most of the time to either be approved or reject. I can approve or reject it right from my email as well. So I'm going to go ahead and hit approve. You'll notice it opens another window for me that's going to open here in a second. And I can actually give a comment back to the user that submitted it to say, you know what, go ahead, I want this by Wednesday, which is today, so let's hope that they can get it. Go ahead and hit approve. You'll now notice I'm going to hop back into GP, and we'll actually be able to see what the history of this PO was. So we've noticed that I went in, I entered in that purchase order, my manager got an email that said accept or reject, or delegate if I need to give it to somebody else. And it's now been approved. So you'll now notice that it has a different status. So if I go into that PO, you'll now notice that I no longer have that submit button at the top. I can now print or email that come available to me. Okay. And I can also now as well see the history. If I wanted to view that history to see what happened to this PO, it's just loading here. So you'll notice that I'm actually signed in as Diane, and he actually submitted it for approval. And it actually went ahead and I approved it as well for the final approval. And it says, my comment here says, again, it says, go ahead, I want this by Wednesday. Now, we all might say that's all very good, except for approving a PO doesn't mean anything to me unless I have some backup documentation for this. Well, that's also a great part about GP is we can attach some documents to make that PO make sense. So I know you guys all loved watching me enter in a PO, so I'm going to enter in another PO, but this time I'm going to enter a PO with an attachment. That attachment is going to come to my manager in an email for approval with my attachment that I'm attaching. So that attachment could be anything like a quote that I received from my vendor, or maybe some special instructions that come with it, or maybe shipping instructions, whatever makes sense. I can attach most kinds, Okay, I'm going to go ahead and attach a document here. I am actually going to attach a PDF here. So let me just go and find my PDF that I've hidden here. So when I attach this in, this PDF will follow it all the way through until this PO stays here forever and ever. So I'm going to go ahead and attach. You'll notice I've attached my attachment because I no longer have a big paper clip. I now have a little one. I'm going to go ahead and hit submit. And just for fun, I'm going to put my comment as 999 so you can see that it's a different PO. And we will see that attachment happen onto that email that's going to come to my manager, which is me, in regards to what I'm actually approving. So we as a manager can have a little bit of a glimpse as to what's happening instead of getting those awful paper cuts, trying to go through our filing cabinet and find them. So I'm just going to open up my email now just so that we can take a peek at, you'll notice I got a new one sent to me. And here's my PDF that was attached to it. So let's go ahead and open this. Here's my lovely PDF that I had there. And obviously, we would make the PDF be a little bit more to what it has to do with the PO. Now, you might say to me, what happens if my manager's on vacation and you know what, they forgot to say that they're on vacation or they called in sick? So we also set expiries on this deadline as well. If you notice here, I have a task deadline that says I have to complete this by 9/12 tomorrow morning to do this. If not, it goes to my manager to say, you know what, you didn't approve this. So we always have that just in case situation that happens. Now, of course, if it's a planned vacation, we can deal with that workflow. But we always know that sometimes things get busy or we miss them or we might be out of the office sick. It does give a deadline that it now goes to the next person, and we set what that deadline is. In this case, we've set it to be a day. We think a day is sufficient amount of time for that manager to go and approve it. Now, it will be whatever it is that you guys need it to be based on your workflow. I will talk a little bit about the workflow rules that we can put in at the end to make your workflow dynamic to you and what makes sense naturally for your business. I'm going to go ahead and approve my own PO because I really want it and I really think I need it. So I'm going to go ahead and approve it back with my comment here. Now, we can have our PO workflow end at that particular point in time, or we can have this workflow continue. We can have more approvals in here. It's not a all or nothing solution. I can put my PO approval only on my PO, or only on my receiving, or only on my enter match invoice section, or I can put it on every step, or 2 steps out of 3. So I'm going to show you what it looks like for a receiving transaction. It does look very similar. So for fun here, let's put in our receiving transaction. And I'm going to put it inside my batch like normal, like we do everything else. Add. And of course, I want to pick up my Ace Travel because that's who I did my PO for. I do my auto receive here. You notice here, here's my one processor for $16,000. I'm going to go ahead and hit receive. Okay. And because I wanted to go to a particular manager for approval, we can turn this on and off, or it can be a basic one. I am going to say who I want it to be. I need the finance department to approve this. So I said I want the finance department to approve this. Now, before I can even post this, it's not going to post until I submit it. Okay? So I'm going to have to go ahead and hit save. And once I hit save and submit that batch for approval, I'm going to get this very similar email that you saw that I have over here that has my attachment and my approve, reject, or delegate. All right. So now that we saw kind of how workflow works for us, let's talk about how we can make the workflow unique to yourself. There are lots of rules that we can put inside of our workflow, and we can put it at various stages of our workflow as well. I'm just going to hop into the setup of our workflow to see what's dynamic to us. So I'm going to go ahead and open my workflow setup here. Oops, sorry. I lied here. I have it open already. My workflow maintenance here. Just going to move it to the middle of the screen here. All right, so our workflow maintenance is where we put in our rules and what we want to happen. So if you notice here, we actually talked about our PO approval too, and I have various levels here. You notice that I have a VP, a manager, and a CEO. This is where I put in my rules that said if it's greater than 25,000, if my work buyer ID is a particular one. So I'm actually going to pick on that finance one, which is the one we did previously. And I'm just going to open up the rules here. I wanted to show you the rules here because these are all the fields that we can set a workflow based on. Okay? We don't always just want it on an amount. It could be an amount per line, per the total amount of the purchase order. It could be based on a particular ship to or ship from or even a quantity. If your quantity is a huge quantity and then you now need an approval, we can do that based on the steps as well. So you do see that there are quite a few fields that we can put it on here. We can even put it on there on the freight amount. If the freight amount is over, let's say, $25 and you then now need an approval because majority of your vendors say that you can have free shipping, put that in there as well. If you're getting special payment terms ID, we can put on a workflow based on that as well. Okay, we can have it based on a lot of fields that we can put on. We put those conditions on there based on whatever works best for your workflow as well. Now, the next question might be, what if I don't do purchase orders, but I still want to have that approval based on my payables transactions? Just my normal transaction window that I have over here. So if you guys are saying, you know what, we don't do purchase orders, or we're not looking to do purchase orders because we don't use inventoried items or whatever the case may be, we can put a workflow based on our payables transaction entry window. So we can put similar workflows on here as well, based on the purchase amount, based on the tax amount. So I'm just going to open those windows side by side here so we can see that workflow maintenance and that purchase transaction entry window. So you can see how you can make this dynamic to you. So if I go to my payables transaction entry window, you notice I have a very similar workflow set up where I have a director of finance, a VP, and a CEO. I love that I made myself the VP. I'm really getting a raise here. So you'll notice that if my document amount is less than $10,000, just goes to the director of finance. If it's over $10,000 but less than $20,000, it comes to my VP of finance. And I have this based on my document amount. So that is my total purchases, trade, discount, freight, miscellaneous, and tax. I can do this based on the purchases amount or freight or tax. So if you see the fields I have here, they are a little different than we saw with that PO, but we do have a lot of selection here again that we can go based on who entered it, who modified it, when they put it in, what the distribution type was, and necessarily what actually the amounts are. Most of the time, we probably will do it on the amount or the payment terms ID. If we're going to be putting in something that's really strange for our payment terms, maybe we want a manager's approval on that as well. Now, those workflows work very similar to what you see over there. What I had is my email itself. So if I actually come in here and I put in that transaction like I did before, I'll have to go in and submit it just like I did previously, and that transaction cannot post until I open up my email and I actually approve this email that says you want to approve this transaction. Okay. It does keep a full history, as I said, of who approved it, when they approved it, and when it moved. If you remember in the purchase order window, so just for an audit perspective, if you remember that purchase order window that we saw previously, and I briefly showed that history, we can pull this also into Smart Lists or some reports, or you can use the out-of-the-box reports in GP to help you with that one, just if you have to have it for audit purposes or you have a regulatory body that requires you to keep this information as to who approved it, when they approved it, and if it got moved to anyone for whatever reason. Okay, so we can keep that information there. All right. So let's open up that workflow maintenance again. So as I said, we can put it on the payables transaction entry. So now I'll tell you all the places that we can put it in there so that you can figure out what will work best for you if you decided to use a workflow. As I said, we can put on that payables batch approval. Okay, so if we wanted to do it on a whole batch, So let's say we have an AP clerk who's in there and they're entering in all those payables invoices, non-PO payables invoices, and they're going in there and you just want to approve their batch for posting. So you can have it based on the workflow based on that. So not on each transaction, but the batch themselves. So they go to the end of the day, they submit their batch, and that batch amount is based on the workflow approval. So it might be based on a particular user gets approved by a certain person, a particular amount. And of course, it's the same options that they had previously. The manager or the approver in this case can only accept, reject, or delegate to somebody else. As I said, we can have it on the payables transaction approval as well. You can have a similar rule set up that if it's under $5,000, it doesn't require manager's approval. If it's over $5,000, it requires the first manager's approval. Over $25,000, maybe it needs a different manager. And over $35,000, it needs a dual manager's approval. You can have it go out to as many people as you need to have it out as well. If you require to have dual signatures, we can do that as well. You can also help us out with your check approvals as well. As we showed before, we can have it based on our purchase orders as well. So we can put it on the purchase order approval. So before that purchase order can even go out to your vendor, we can have those workflow rules based on that. We can have it set up on a PO requisition. So if you guys are using purchase order requisitions, we can do it there as well before it even gets to the purchase order approval. So if you guys are having people entering in transactions that are coming in maybe from a light user or not a full user, and they're putting in purchase order requisitions instead of purchase orders, we can put a workflow there as well. Of course, in the receiving transactions and the purchase invoice approval. Now, for those of you who are not using purchase order requisitions, I want to show you a little bit what the purchase order requisition window can do for you and how it can help you out with your workflow. So we saw that purchase order entry screen. Looks pretty similar to what we've seen previously for that PO entry. We say what we want, how many of them we want, and where and how much it is, and who we're ordering it from. Purchase order requisitions are generally for people who are asking or requiring goods and services that are not necessarily working in our accounting department, and they just want to put in a submission to say, you know what, I would like these goods, please order them for me. Now you'll notice that this purchase order requisition entry window looks a little different than purchase order entry. Okay, so I put in that requisition number, it's just the next in line. I put in that description that says Brittany wants this or this chair. Okay, I can put a comment in here as well. I can put in a ship to if I know the ship to, or I don't have to. It's completely up by me. It says who it's requested by. I am in as SA. And I say what item I want to put in. Now, it can be an item that's in my system, or it can be an item I just type in there as a non-inventoried item. Or you can turn that off where we just only see inventoried items. I then say how many of these I want. So I want 12 of these. And I'm going to say that they're $5,000 each. Oops, 5,000, not 50. It calculates my extended cost for me. But here's the difference. I don't necessarily have to put in where I want that shipped to or which vendor I want it from. I can leave it to my purchasing department to make the better choice for me to then say, you know what, I'm just saying that I want these items, but I know that my accounting department or maybe my procurement department can go out and find me a better cost or a better vendor to do this too. So I'm going to leave my vendor ID blank. If you notice here, there's little asterisks in the site ID and vendor ID fields. These mean that these are not required fields for these users to fill out. If you notice, also the shipping method and the ship-to address are also not required to be filled out. I then go ahead and hit submit, and that goes in for submission to say that this person would like this. It's not turned into a PO yet. It hasn't done anything. It will not turn into a PO until somebody physically comes in and actually turns that into a PO for me. I can also have multiple purchase order requisitions that I may condense into one PO. So if I had multiple departments maybe requesting some sort of supplies or goods and they're all the same, I might want to condense that into one order to maybe get a better shipping rate or maybe just to get a better rate as a whole. I can take all those submissions for all different departments or different users from my PO requisition window, and then turn them into a PO when I'm good and ready, and when I can now consolidate them and do them as I please. Or maybe go out to multiple vendors and say, who can give me the best price for these? I have, I want a quantity of 20. Give me those, and then I can make one PO. Now, as I said before, we can make that workflow be in a couple different places. I can have it on my purchase requisition, and then again on my PO order entry, and then maybe I have it on receivings, or maybe not. It's not all or nothing. I can choose which windows I want it to happen on, depending where we need that approval. Now, if you would like workflow maintenance, it is based on one of the things is any people that you're asking to be the email approvers, they must be inside of the same domain. Okay, we can't actually have workflows go out to outside people for approval. They will need to have the same email address that you have as well that you're using inside of GP. Okay, so there is a little bit of housekeeping for that. Okay, and you do usually, the users who do approve it, when they are approving it from their email, they don't necessarily have to be logged into GP as well. I just happen to have both of them going at the same time. They can approve it from just their email themselves. They don't have to hop into GP. So if we do have some managers out there who are approving but maybe not heavy GP users, or maybe we don't want to consume a GP seat, they can approve from their email themselves.
So Brittany?
So I know our time is coming to an end. So I just wanted to pass it back over to Scott as I know you guys are coming to the end here, and you probably don't want to listen to me all day. So hopefully you've enjoyed and learned some stuff about purchase order requisitions and purchase order workflow.
Thank you very much, Brittany.
No problem.
Show my screen. So we'll go back to the presentation. So just to be clear, people approving via email do not need to have a GP license. And as next steps, reach out to Trish Fortin. She's your client relationship manager for existing Endeavour clients. And if you're new to Endeavour, then you can reach out to Steve Ewing. And between the two of them and Brittany and our support team, we're happy to help you out. So thank you very much, everyone. Have a wonderful day.